Guten Tag, grüezi miteinander. My name is Eve, and on my channel I discuss how to teach your child German when you are not a native speaker. Today's topic is part 2 of things to keep in mind when hiring a German tutor. So my boys learn German with me. They learn with one private German teacher, and they learn with italki and OutSchool. So what's really important when finding a teacher is that the teacher is playful, especially if you have really young children. So some teachers on some platforms, they say, yes, I teach children. But what I've come to learn is that in some cultures, teachers will teach the children like little adults, and they're very intense. And that's not the way I want my children to learn German. What I want to hear after my children's class is, wow, that was fun. Mom, I like that teacher. I want to have them again. That's what I want to hear coming from my children. It's just a language. It is not that serious. I don't need my children to be overwhelmed in class. I had a teacher who seemed very serious about teaching my children. I booked her, and then I told her in French my son was a beginner learner. And she was trying to figure out what level he really was, and he was a beginner. And then she kept talking to him almost like an A2 learner, a little, not a beginner, but a little more advanced than a beginner. And after class, my son said, Mom, that was really overwhelming. I had no idea what she was talking about. And I did not book this teacher again, because if I tell you my child is a beginner and you're talking to him at a more advanced level for most of the class, and you can tell he's getting frustrated in his body language, and he's just completely, his demeanor has changed, I expect that teacher to adjust and then teach him either in a different way or speak in a clearer and a more simplistic way. But this teacher did not adjust to my child. And to me, that's why after the first class, I didn't book her again. She's a great teacher, but some teachers, they take teaching very seriously. They know what they're doing, you know? They want to do it their way, and period. That's it. They don't want to adjust to some children's learning abilities or their learning styles. And that's fine for, I'm sure, most children. But with my children, I want language learning to be really fun. So I appreciate when teachers push my child just enough, but then back off if it's too overwhelming for my child. So as a parent, it's really important that you observe the class and you look at your child's body language and you see if your child and this teacher has a really good dynamic. And there are a ton of teachers that are really good on all the platforms. This is the thing. I've taken classes where the teacher, I tell them my level. I'm like, I'm around a B1, B2 level. And they will start talking at me like a C1, C2 level. And by the end of that class, I don't feel good about myself. I feel like I'm dumb. Like I'm being talked down to the whole time. And then I think of it with my son. When a teacher is talking at a too high of a level, and then at the end of the class, my son doesn't feel good about himself. He feels dumb. He feels like, I don't know any French, or I don't know any German. I had no idea what this teacher was saying the whole time. And you feel bad about yourself. And I don't want my children to feel bad about themselves. So that's why it's really important anytime you book a class to contact the teacher and tell them your child's learning style, anything they need to know. Whether your child is a visual learner and whatnot. So contacting the teacher is really important, and telling them exactly about your child and their learning style and what they like, what they don't like. But the teacher and you, it's a partnership. And when my child at the end of class, I do give the teacher feedback every so often. For instance, if the teacher did something like a game, I will write, if my son said, I love that game we played today, I will write them. My child loved this game today. Thank you so much for playing this game with him today. Or my son really liked when you did this or that. So then the teacher knows what your children's likes and dislikes and how they learn. So advocating for your child is very important, and teaching your child to advocate for themselves is also very important. My 10-year-old advocates for himself because I encourage him to. I tell him, what did you think about the teacher? Did you learn a lot from them? Did you like their personality? Did you like the way they taught you? What did you like about this class? And he tells me now, Mom, I really liked that teacher. He was so fun. Can we have him again? I liked when we played this game. So it's really important that your children communicate with you on their likes and dislikes, and that you communicate that to your teacher. But obviously you don't want to overwhelm them with like 4 pages of feedback. Sometimes it's just a sentence, and sometimes I don't give feedback if they had this teacher for a really long time. Some teachers just have a great dynamic with my children, and I let them be. I let them teach whatever they want, whatever they think my children need to improve on, totally fine with me. But in the beginning, the first few classes they have with my child, I will give a sentence feedback. Another important thing that's really important to me is flexibility. Sometimes the teacher will say, I can't do this class, my baby's sick, can I move the class? No problem. I have no problem with that. And it's vice versa. When I'm like, oh no, my son is sick, is there any way we can move the class? So communication between you and your teacher are so important, and it's really important to have mutual respect, to try to be on class on time, to show them grace if they're a few minutes late. Sometimes with technology, things happen, cameras freeze, and you just have to be patient with each other. Other characteristics that I find really important for a teacher to have that are teaching children is that they are really playful. And when your child, for instance, my youngest son has been learning German since he was 3 years old. And sometimes kids do weird things. There's one time I turned around, he had his foot on the table and he licked his big toe. How is your teacher going to react to that? Obviously, our teacher is very young, and she started cracking up and laughing and made jokes about it. And then I'm like, whoa, dude, like put your foot on the ground. What are you doing? But having a teacher with a really good sense of humor is really important, especially with children, because some teachers have no sense of humor at all. And I'm like, do you even like children? I mean, it's fine. Not everyone has to be extremely playful all the time, but you need to be a little bit playful, especially for young children. So another tip I have for you is to make sure you pay your private tutor well. You want to pay your teacher enough so they don't flake. If you don't pay them very well, they're not going to be really motivated to come over and teach your child. They're going to come up with a lot of excuses. If you pay your teacher enough, they will show up because they're like, hey, I'm getting good money for this. I'm definitely showing up. And then you tell them your expectations. My expectations are you don't play on your phone when you are teaching my children, that you give them your undivided attention, and so on. Just so they know your expectations, and then you ask them their expectations. What do they expect from you and your children? And I always tell this to our private tutor. She's in college now. I say, your tests and your classes are more important than teaching my children. If you cannot teach them because you have to study for a final or a test, please do so. And then, I offer, you can always make up the class if you want to, if you have the time. So I am very understanding that, especially with young people in high school or college. She's been with us since high school. Sometimes life's going to come up. Sometimes she's going to have vacations. and so on. And you have to be understanding of that. And you also have to think about a backup. So if your teacher, your German teacher, cannot teach that week, what are you going to do? What alternatives do you have? With language learning for a child, it's very important to be consistent. They have to learn German pretty much 6 days a week. So how can you fill in the time that your tutor will not be there? But if you can, look for different teachers on different platforms, on italki, for instance, or OutSchool. Try to find different ways to teach your children German. So if you do have a private tutor and they can't show up that week, it's not a big deal. Fortunately, I know enough German now that I can do German activities with my children. But if you don't know any German, you have to find different ways to supplement when your teachers don't come or can't come for this reason or that reason. But make sure that you are understanding of other people and show compassion. Another thing that's really important is that when your child is in a mood that day, how can the teacher get German out of this child? Can they adjust their lesson plan to maybe do something a little more playful than what they had planned? For instance, when my little one was in a mood, what did we do to cheer him up? We did a tasting first. To start off, we did a tasting because what kid does not like food? So if your kid likes Play-Doh, let them play Play-Doh with their German tutor. What's really important if you and your child's German teacher teaches online is to make sure you have other platforms. So for instance, if you have a bad Zoom connection that day, make sure you have a Skype already set up, or FaceTime, or alternative methods to do the class. There are times when certain networks aren't very good. They keep cutting out. So when italki is cutting us off, make sure you have Skype already set up. Make sure you have a Zoom link. Just make sure you have other platforms that you can use, not like you have to start in the middle of class setting up Skype and then you're losing class time, which means you're just throwing away money. So make sure you have different platforms available if your class doesn't go well on one platform, that you can do an alternative platform. You have a plan B. So I know I'm talking about hiring private teachers, hiring teachers on italki or OutSchool, and so on. I never said German learning was cheap. German is a very expensive language to learn, and I think you should really know that and look at your budget before you start teaching your children German. Another thing that's really important, especially with young children, is that your teacher is stern but not too stern. But when they're acting up and not paying attention, you do want your teacher to refocus your child and say, please pay attention. Sometimes teachers are too nice. And I will say to them, feel free if they are goofing off to tell them to pay attention. And eventually they will, because they want to be respectful of your parenting style. And other times when I'm sitting next to my child and they're starting to goof off and not paying attention, I will tell them, hey, pay attention, okay? Be respectful. Be respectful for your teacher's time. She's very busy and she's making time to teach you. Be respectful. And usually after that, they'll readjust themselves and continue learning. I don't have to do it that often. When they were younger, with my little one, he was just all over the place and grabbing everything. But now that they're older, they know what our expectations are. And then after class, I'll say, oh my gosh, you are doing such a great job. You're being so respectful. The thing I always tell my children they have to do at the end of class is to, one, thank their teacher and then say bye. If you have any more suggestions and tips for things to keep in mind when hiring a German teacher, please leave it in the comments below. I would love to see them. If you liked my video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Dankeschön. Tschüss.